grouping election. If you don't know what that is, watch this video because I'm going to go over 3 points that we should all know about grouping election. The first one is what it is. Second one is why you do it, why you want to do a grouping election. And the third one is why you don't do the grouping election. And this is the one where people get messed up on. So what a grouping election is that the IRS says, hey, okay, if you have multiple rental properties, well, instead of treating each one individually, we're going to let you group it all together and treat it all as one activity. Okay, and why we want to do this, the reason why you want to group it as one activity, and it's really more for the non-passive rentals, so real estate professional, short-term rental rules, because those are the ones that have the hourly requirements to meet certain thresholds to meet the rep and short-term rentals, right? So, for example, one rule for the property is 500 hours. So if you didn't do the grouping election and there are 4 properties and you're trying to do rep status, well, each property has to meet 500 hours each. But if you did the grouping election, what it allows you to do is combine as 500 hours for the whole thing for just this one activity, right? So instead of trying to do 500 here, 500 here, 500 here, 500 here, you're just doing 500 for the whole activity if you did the grouping election. Now, why you don't want to do the grouping election, and this is really for long-term rentals, and you don't want to do grouping elections for long-term rentals is mainly because a lot of times long-term rentals probably will have some passive loss that are suspended because maybe they're over the threshold for some reason. Well, what happens here is that by default, each property is separated, right? So it's not grouped yet. If you do a grouping election, now the IRS says this is one activity. So even though each property each has separate suspended losses or losses from the rental activity and it's being carried over, if you were to sell one of those properties and while it's being grouped, the IRS doesn't consider that as a disposal of one activity. It's only part of an activity. So because it's inside the grouping election, the losses that you have on this one property that you sold, you cannot take yet. You can only take the losses after you sell every single property inside that group. So this is why for long-term rentals, having a grouping election is actually a bad idea because if there are a lot of suspended losses over multiple properties, you have to sell the last property still inside that group before you could see those losses come out. But by default, if you are not doing grouping election, if you sell this property losses, well, that's considered disposing of one activity for that one property. So then the IRS says, okay, if there are suspended losses, you can take the losses for that one property and then still, have the 3 other properties still take losses over the years. And if you sell another one, those could take the suspended, that one could take the suspended losses as well. But the grouping election would disallow this because it's considered one thing. And the only way you could take losses if you dispose everything in that one thing if you did a grouping election. So we talked about this extensively inside our membership meeting a couple weeks ago. And I think it provided a lot of clarity for people on why we do grouping election and why we don't do grouping election. So it's important to know that grouping election is probably good for non-passive rentals. So think rep status, short-term rentals. But it is not good for long-term rentals. So regular Schedule E passive rental activities, those are not good for grouping election. And if you're interested in learning more about these things that we talk about certain tax strategies on a weekly basis inside Level Up Quest. So I would encourage you to book a call with me to talk more about to see how I could support you. And then also, we're offering a special deal right now where I'm giving a refund on the first month. So it's pretty much risk-free where you try it out for the first month. It's only $200 a month. You attend all the meetings, and after the first month, if it's not something that you see is a good fit for you, I will refund you that first month's payment. So at least you got a lot of value out of the weekly meetings. And also we provide e-courses for CPE credits, so you could do a bunch of those in the first month as well. And what has happened is that I offered this in the past 4 or 5 months already, and no one has canceled. No one has asked for a refund as of yet, right? So that shows the value that we are providing at Level Up Quest, and I would love to talk to you more about it. So click on the link below to book a Zoom call.